Yá'át'ééh. Good morning, my relatives. Today is Tuesday, May 17th, and I'm sitting down with my second cup of coffee. And I want to talk a little bit about the white supremacist domestic terrorist attack that took place in Buffalo, New York over the weekend. But before I begin, as I always do, let me acknowledge the people whose land I'm speaking to you from today. So I live what's now called Washington, D.C., and these are the traditional lands of the Piscataway. And I want to honor the Piscataway as the host people of these lands. I want to thank them for their stewardship of the land. And I want to just state how humbled I am to be living on these lands today. I was debating how to begin this session. I want to give my response and talk about my response to what happened in Buffalo, New York over the weekend. It was a very horrific terrorist attack where an 18-year-old man targeted a black neighborhood, went to a supermarket and shot 13 people, 11 of whom were black, and all 10 of the victims who died were black. And he was very clearly a white supremacist operating out of replacement theory. And it was a horrific act of hate and violence that took place in our nation. But it wasn't the first time, and it obviously won't be the last time. And so I want to respond. I think one of the best ways I want to start by responding this morning is I want to share with you an article that I was looking at today. It's actually from ABC, and there's a lot of these articles coming out now. It lists the names of the victims. And I want to just take a moment. I'm going to share this in the comment with you. And I want to just take a moment to read the names of the victims for you today. So these are this is from an ABC News report. There's other articles that have similar information, but these are the 10 people who were killed this weekend. Ruth Whitfield, who was 86, Roberta Drury, who was 32, Aaron Salter, who was 55, Hayward Patterson, who was 67, Pearl Young, who was 77, Geraldine Talley, who was 62, Celestine Chaney, who was 65, Catherine Massey, who was 72, Margus Morrison, who was 52, and Andre McNeil, who was 53. These were the 10 people who were murdered, massacred this weekend in Buffalo, New York. And I'd like to just take a moment of silence to remember these victims and to remember their families. Thank you, my relatives, for taking that moment of silence with me. I want to thank the people who are on today. Phil, Yá'át'ééh, thank you. Terry, thank you for joining. Andrea, Yá'át'ééh, thank you for joining today. When I woke up Sunday morning and I read the news and I allowed myself just to sit with what had happened on Saturday, I found myself feeling somewhat stunned. Not that this hasn't happened before, and as I said earlier, not that this won't happen again, but that it just continues to happen, right? It just continues to happen. And every time the left scream at the right and the right scream back at the left, and yet nothing changes, nothing happens, and people of color, frequently Black and Indigenous peoples, are just left with sorrow. And it disrupted my entire day on Sunday. I wanted to jump online and respond, but I didn't know even what I was feeling and thinking myself. And I just kind of sat with this information throughout much of the day. I talked to some friends, I talked to family, I took pretty much a mellow day on Sunday, and then I thought I was going to get online and say something yesterday. But again, I just found I was processing more and trying to come to some sense of where I was. If you follow me on social media, you'll know I tweeted a response the other day, and I'm going to put this in the comment right now. It was a tweet. I also put this on my Facebook, where I modified Psalm 31, which asks the question, "How long, O Lord?" And I'm going to share that with you right now. Let me get this into the comment section, and then I'm going to read. Oh, sorry, I keep on pressing enter when I don't mean to. That's not what I wanted either. This is what I want. Sorry about that confusion. There we go. There's the tweet I put out. And I just put this out as a prayer. And I said I modified the words from Psalm 13. And let me just read that for you right now. It says, "How long, O Lord, will you forget Black and Indigenous people forever? How long will you hide your face from us? How long must we wrestle with our thoughts and every day have sorrow in our hearts? How long will whiteness exalt itself over us? Look on us and answer, O Lord." Oh, sorry. Yes. Thank you, Phil. This is Psalm 13, not Psalm 31. I got my numbers mixed up. This is Psalm 13. And I didn't include the whole psalm because the psalm actually ends with hope. And I didn't want to end my prayer today, yesterday, and the day before with hope. I wanted to end it with lament, with question, with "Where are you, God?" Right? I wanted to leave it with the question of "How long, O Lord? How long must this go on? How many times? How many days? At what point does it begin to get addressed? At what point does something change?" Now, obviously, we all have to be a part of that change. It's not just going to magically happen. We have to be a part of it, but we have to see progress. We have to make progress. I could tell I was not doing very well over the weekend because I began replying to people's comments and tweets on my social media. And I don't normally do that because often those conversations don't go anywhere. But I found myself responding to people's comments on my social media. And I decided I should stop and figure out where my heart was because, again, those comment sections never go very well. And that's when I landed on this prayer. And I decided to end the prayer purely in lament, not looking at any hope, not clinging to any hope, but literally just saying to God, "How long, O Lord?" And I decided to do this publicly instead of just privately. I put it up on my social media so I could publicly share these thoughts and these questions that are deeply in my heart. And I don't have an answer. Obviously, we all need to be a part of the answer, right? That there's no doubt about that. But we also need to see change. And not baby steps, not tiny incremental change that only benefits the oppressor, but real radical change that brings about some sense of justice and ending of oppression. Baby steps merely benefits the oppressor, does not result in real change. So that was one of my responses. That was one of my thoughts. The other thought I had is, right, I live on the East Coast. I used to live on the Navajo Nation. Pretty much the entire East Coast is within driving distance, right? When you're used to living on the res and the grocery store is an hour away and the nearest major town or city is 2 hours away or 3 hours away. And for a long time, the nearest Chipotle was 5 hours away, right? I mean, driving long distances doesn't matter. You know, a few weeks ago, I went up to New York City. It was a 5 hour drive. I did it pretty much in a day, left in the morning and came back late at night. And so I thought I could go to Buffalo. It's not that far. It's 6.5 hours away. I mean, when we lived on the res, that was a drive to Phoenix, which was not a long drive. And so I thought I should just go to Buffalo and be with the people, not have an agenda or not plan everything out, but just to go. And so I did call a friend of mine, who's the pastor of a church in Buffalo, and let him know I was thinking about coming. Unfortunately, I was planning to go yesterday. I was planning to leave on Monday morning and stay there overnight, leave Monday morning and come back on Tuesday. But my daughter still, she tested positive for COVID about a week ago, and she's still not completely over it yet. All of her symptoms are gone, but she's still testing positive. And so we're waiting one more day. And so I didn't want to go while we still had COVID in our home. And I wanted to be cautious both with my own travels as well as to make sure my family was going to be okay. And so I decided not to go on Monday and yesterday and today. But I am planning to go on Thursday and Friday. I'm planning to leave here early Thursday morning, hopefully get to Buffalo around noon. If my friends are available, I will try to spend some time with them and maybe meet with some people. But I want to go to the grocery store and stand at the memorial. I want to talk with people. And I decided I wanted to help shape the conversation, right? Because again, as there always is after these events, there's always a dialogue, right? There's always a conversation that takes place, and the media kind of pushes it and the politicians push it, but there's also a dialogue going on the ground. Sometimes that doesn't always get reported or broadcast, but I wanted to go there and I wanted to offer some of my thoughts into how to shape this dialogue, because I see the way it's beginning to shape itself even at the national level, right? If you follow me on social media, you'll know I put out a tweet this morning, because Joe, if you're watching the news, Joe Biden is actually in Buffalo right now. He went to the memorial a little while ago. I think he's meeting with victims at the moment. And then this afternoon at 1:00, he's scheduled to give some remarks. Here's a story about his trip there. And if you follow me on Twitter or on Facebook, you'll know that I put out on my social media this morning this message. I'm going to share the tweet with you here, and then I'm going to put the graphic up right here. And I shared this, which said, "Dear Buffalo, today President Joe Biden is probably going to tell you that white nationalist ideology is abhorrent to the very fabric of this nation. Instead of applauding, please remind him what the fabric of the U.S. says, and then tell him that if we want to fix the problem, we first have to name the problem." You see, the challenge is on Saturday, the White House released a statement by President Biden regarding this shooting. And in this statement, he was willing to call it domestic terrorism. He was willing to call it white nationalism. He was willing to name those things as abhorrent, which is all good, right? I don't have a problem with that. That's all good. But as he stated in the highlighted parts here, he said, and sorry, it's a little, I can't see it. Let me pull it up where I can read it a little bit better. But he stated, a racially motivated hate crime is abhorrent to the very fabric of this nation. Any act of domestic terrorism, including an act done in the name of the repugnant white nationalist ideology is antithetical to every fabric of everything we stand for in America. Sorry, that was a very small print. I couldn't read it very well. And the message is, right, the message that is coming out of the White House is, yes, this is horrible, but this is not who we are. We are opposed to white nationalism and white supremacy. We are opposed to racial motivated hate crimes. We are opposed. And while I don't doubt that Joe Biden personally is, our nation is not and never has been. Right? This is why in my tweet this morning, I included the Declaration of Independence, which calls natives savages. I included Article 1, Section 2 of the Constitution, which excludes natives and counts Africans as 3/5 of a person. I included the 13th Amendment, which doesn't abolish slavery, but redefines and codifies it under the jurisdiction of the criminal justice system. This is the fabric of our nation, Mr. President. This is the soul that you're trying to restore. This deeply ingrained implicit and explicit racial bias that's in the air we breathe and is a part of the media we consume. And so when our president goes to hurting communities and tells these communities, this is not who we are, that's not comforting. That's not comforting. Because I guarantee you, if he says something like that today at 1 o'clock, every Black person in hearing distance will know and have memories ingrained in their hearts and part of their being, understanding that that is not true. And carrying the wounds of a nation that since its founding has dehumanized African Americans and Native Americans. And so when our white president goes into communities of color and says at the top of his lungs, this is not who we are, it sounds great to white people, but to people of color who know differently, it rings hollow. It rings hollow. But the expectation is, well, at least he's here. He's saying something. He is calling it bad. So there will be applause and there will be gratitude being expressed and there will be tears being shed. But deep down, we know nothing's going to change because they're not willing to name the problem, which is this is the fabric of our nation. This is written into the foundations upon which we're built. And this has been going on without ceasing for the past 500 years. Yes, it's taken different forms. Yes, it's modified itself, but this sort of white nationalist hate and terrorism has been going on since well before this nation was founded by the settlers, the colonists coming over from Europe. They embedded it into their foundations, and they've been acting it out pretty much ever since. And so I have very little hope that President Biden's statement is going to make a big difference today. If you follow me on social media, you also know that I tweeted this out the other day. This was from, this came across my Twitter feed. It was by someone named Dr. Thrasher. And he pointed this out. He said, noting that in AP copy, 18-year-old Michael Brown was an 18-year-old black man, while 18-year-old Peyton Gendron is a white teenager. And he brought up an article about Michael Brown from 2014, identifying him as he was shot as a 18-year-old black man. And then he brought up the article from this weekend on the AP that identified Peyton Gendron as a white teenager. Now, I see these things frequently, and I'm like, well, how real is that? And so I did some research, right? I searched it. I did a search on AP News white teenager Buffalo. And I found, sure enough, that not only did the AP article identify him as a white teenager, but because AP is the source for so many other articles. We have US News and World Report putting it out. We have ABC News putting it out. We have local news stations all putting out that this was a white teenager. So this becomes the narrative. Now, that tweet garnered a ton of response, a couple 100,000 likes and tens of thousands of retweets. And I think it actually got AP's attention because while this was showing up on the search terms, when I actually pulled up the stories, they had begun to change it. And they started using just 18-year-old or changing it. They took out the word teenager in reference to Peyton from this weekend. But again, the narrative has already been set, right? An 18-year-old black man, because man is more threatening. And then, therefore, he was shot, right? Because that's a threat. And then an 18-year-old white teenager, because that's more innocent. And just, again, this is a part of the implicit racial bias. And so I put this out onto my social media, and I said it's called implicit racial bias. And in the USA, it's pumped into the air we breathe and written into the media that we consume. And so, as you can see, both the media and the president are working to perpetuate both this implicit racial bias, as well as trying to maintain this myth of American exceptionalism that says this is not who we are. And that's the problem, is this is who we are, right? We are a nation that not only have we written these things into our foundations, not only is our Declaration of Independence and our Constitution a blatantly white supremacist and white nationalist documents, but we celebrate it, right? Even at the temple to Abraham Lincoln here in, this is a white supremacist temple, right? Abraham Lincoln was a blatant white supremacist. And in the museum at the base of this temple, it states, according to Abraham Lincoln, Black lives don't matter. His paramount object in the struggle against chattel slavery was to save the Union. It was not to save or destroy slavery. And if he could have saved the Union without freeing any slave, he would have done it. If he could have saved the Union by freeing all the slaves, he would have done it. And if he could have saved it by freeing some and leaving others alone, he would also have done that. Abraham Lincoln didn't give a damn about Black lives. And we celebrate that. You don't need to listen to Fox News to get radicalized. You just have to be an American. Take a history course. You'll get radicalized right there. So this is the problem, which is we never talk about these things. These horrific, horrible actions happen. And immediately, both sides begin to downplay it, right? The right is talking about he was mentally disturbed, downplaying his accountability for his own actions. The left is like, this is the right's problem. This is not who we are. The media is like, he's an innocent man as compared to these threatening black men. He's an innocent child as compared to these threatening black men. And this is, to be honest, this is what adds to my lament, is not only do these horrific, horrible acts of terrorism repeatedly and continually happen, but because of our responses to them, it never changes, right? So Joe Biden is going to go to Buffalo today, and he's going to say this was white nationalist terrorism. He's going to blame it on Republicans. He's going to use it to call for greater gun control, all of which are part of his political agenda. And then he's going to tell the African American people in the audience that this is not who we are. This is not what's written into the fabric of our nation. And every person there will feel compelled to applaud, even though in their heart they know damn well that he is lying. And that's the problem. So we allow whiteness to control the narrative. We allow the myth of American exceptionalism to perpetuate itself. We pretend like white supremacy is merely an issue for the extremely radical right, instead of understanding that white supremacy is baked into the ethos of this nation. And that's what I want our nation to talk about. That's why I tweeted what I tweeted this morning. That's why I'm going to Buffalo on Thursday. I know I don't have the largest platform. I know I don't have the loudest voice. I know I don't have the most followers. But I'm going to do everything I can to use the platform that I have to change the narrative so that we can have the conversation that neither the Democrats nor the Republicans, both sides, are terrified of having this conversation. Which is the problem, is that white supremacy is written into our foundations. And we've never addressed it there. We've never fixed it. And that's the conversation we have to have, my relatives. That's the conversation we need to have. And we're not going to get that conversation by screaming at people. We're not going to get that conversation by even shaming people. We're going to get there by continuing to present the history, continuing to insert it into the dialogue. This is what we need to do. And so I am looking forward to traveling to Buffalo this week. I'm looking forward to the conversations I'm going to be able to have. I'm looking forward to trying to find some way to impact the national conversation we're having. And I invite you to join me. I invite you to be a part of this. One of the things I'm going to do, I'm going to post this on my website later today, but as you know, I sell books on my website, copies of my book on selling truths. And I was thinking about what else can I do to respond to this? And this week, I'm going to, for every book that I sell on my website, so signed copies of my book, for every book that I sell, I'm going to donate $5 to help the families of who lost loved ones in this horrific attack. And so I'm going to donate $5. I sold one book on Saturday, so that's already $5 I have set aside. I haven't been selling nearly as many as I would like to, but I am hoping to continue to get that out there. But so yeah, so if you've been waiting to buy a copy of my book and you would like to have not only understand the systemic nature of our problems and our challenges as a nation, but if you would also like to be a part of offering a little bit of help to the people as you even purchase this book, I welcome you. Any book I sell this week, I'm going to donate $5 to help the families of the people who were killed in Buffalo. And of course, I'll let you know if any events do get planned where I'm able to speak or do anything more from a platform while I'm in Buffalo, and if I can do anything online. I'm hoping to have a second cup of coffee there on Thursday and to live stream that from somewhere in Buffalo. And so hopefully you'll be able to watch that online too. But yeah, I want to respond. I want to do something. I don't just want to stand on the sidelines and critique. I don't just want to, I want to actually go there and engage with people and do what I can to help shape the dialogue on the ground. Because that's what we need to do. We need to stop allowing whiteness to shape the dialogue, because whiteness on both the left and the right doesn't want to have this dialogue. And so we have to find a way to shape it ourselves. Anyway, that's my plan. That's my response. Thank you, my relatives, for joining me today for this second cup of coffee. I hope your coffee is as good as mine is. If you follow me, you know I was able to watch the sunrise this morning, first time in several days, as it's been cloudy here. And so I was able to watch the sunrise this morning. I'm hoping to be able to watch it again either tomorrow or Wednesday. It's rising pretty early now, so I can't go every morning that it's clear, because it's rising before 6 o'clock, which means I have to get up around 5 o'clock. And sometimes when I get to bed late, that's a bit hard. But yeah, I am going to be watching it more this week. It's supposed to be clear most of this week. So hopefully either tomorrow or Wednesday I'll watch it. And then tomorrow is Wednesday. Hopefully on Wednesday I'll be able to watch it, and then I'm leaving on Thursday morning to go to Buffalo. So have a good day, my relatives. Let me look through the comments here to see if there's anything that I've missed. Thank you, Gina, for your comment about my travel to Buffalo. Thank you, Andrea, for listening. Steve, Yá'át'ééh, good morning. Thank you for joining today. It's really good to have all of you with me here. I hope we can continue to. I hope I'm able to do a second cup of coffee from Buffalo on Thursday. So stay tuned, and hopefully we'll get that live stream going. But have a good day, my relatives. Walk in beauty, and may we learn how to walk in beauty together. Hakone.